Hi and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah, I'm here with Knitting Natter to help knit with ease, confidence and joy. And today we're talking about knitting together with ease, confidence and joy because yes, it's time for another knit along. I thought you'd like that. And this autumn knit along is actually going to be earlier than usual. In previous years we've started knitting in October together. This year we're going to be knitting, let me check my notes, Saturday 7th of September we start. So that's nice and early for us. We can actually get going with our knitting and we'll probably, fingers crossed, everyone will have everything to wear. They'll have finished knitting before it gets cold. So yeah, if it takes you 3 weeks of the knit along or a little bit longer to complete your knit, then you'll definitely have it for the rest of the winter as well. So yes, you might have guessed from those simple messages that we are knitting something cosy. Brilliant. I love knitting cosy things. So this one is another cowl. We knitted a cowl together 2 years ago, which was the rainbow cowl, and it was 3 balls of felted tweed yarn. So funnily enough, we're going to use Rowan felted tweed yarn again, and I have come up with some colourways. This is one of them. So we have 3 blues together in this one. Just cool to me. Absolutely loved these colours when I put them together. And we've not used these colours before. I've not had them in the shop. So if you would like a kit, there may not be many left. If you would like a kit, then do go and grab one. If you're in the UK, they're available to you in the shop. But this is just a suggestion. You can pick 3 colours completely differently. You can pick the other one as well, of course. But yeah, this is just a suggestion, and this is one of the ones, and I have the completed item here. Here we go. Now, you're going to look at this and go, oh my god, I can't knit that. Maybe you can knit this. Maybe you've done colour work before. But I am pleased to say this is a beginner's colour knitting item. It really is perfect for beginners. Not only is it repetitive, but it's also a pattern that is simple and symmetrical. So you're not going to get stuck going the wrong way across a row or trying to knit something that's too complex and then you actually forget which row you're on. Because it's repetitive, because it's a simple pattern that we do multiple times over the different colours, then you're going to get used to it. It's also a great item, and I've found this knitting it myself, to just practice using this technique as well, because you can bet that you will find it so much easier once you've knitted this to go and knit a second one and even approach other Fair Isle knitting patterns as well. So what techniques do you need to start knitting this? Well, it's very simply knit, stitch and purl stitch. We're also knitting in the round. If you've not done that before, no worries. We are doing this together. Every single part of the pattern has a tutorial. Even all the mistakes I made along the way, I have shown you the mistakes and how you fix them as well. So it's definitely not something you need to be scared of. And when I started knitting with colours, it was this kind of pattern that I did. It was a simple, repetitive, symmetrical pattern. This is an ideal pattern for beginners, Fair Isle. And the beauty of using 3 colours very close together means that you haven't got to cut one yarn and then reuse it. It's a simple stripe. So we're striping, which means we can carry the yarns along the stripes. You'll get what I mean once we get in there. But it's ideal for beginners. So if you've not done this kind of thing before, maybe you've been doing knit, stitch and purl stitch, you might have introduced some cables as well. But if you've done knit, stitch and purl stitch for a while, perhaps you started knitting in January. That's an ideal thing for you. If you started knitting maybe this summer and you're really getting into the knit and purl stitch, then this will be ideal for you as well, to just add that little bit of pizzazz to your knitting. And doesn't it look impressive once it's finished? It might look very impressive, but like I say, this is the simplest, one of the simplest forms of ferrule knitting you will come across. So I'm really pleased to introduce colour knitting to you if you've never done it before. We cheated at colour knitting a couple of years ago with the rainbow cowl, and that rainbow cowl was using different techniques. But this is the very old form of ferrule knitting that you'll recognise from many, many classical patterns. So if you have ever had the inkling that you want to go out and do any of this kind of knitting, maybe find some classic patterns, make yourself a tank top or a cardigan or something like that, this is a great introduction. It's a great place to start because you won't be doing any shaping at the same time with maybe darts in the cardigan or up the arms or anything like that. This is a simple side to side, up and down ferrule pattern with the cowl. So I will show you some photos of me wearing it as well, but there you go. That's how it sits. So it's nice and cosy, it bunches up, and it will sit inside a big coat, or it will sit outside the collar of a different one as well. It's ideal for the depth of winter, but it's also ideal if you just want to pull it down and have it a bit looser. So there's that option too. So I like wearing this kind of thing. I have a couple of cowls, big cowls, that I wear regularly, and I just switch them out depending on what coat I'm wearing, or just what I feel like every day. So this is the second colourway. Let me show you that. Now, I don't actually have new balls of this second colourway, I have the leftovers. There you go. So those are the leftovers. This ball was falling apart when I finished knitting with it, so I rolled it up into a ball, and I can show you how to do that inside the knit along as well. So we have 3 colours. These are called Aluminium, Boulder and Iolite. My husband, Nick, is a massive fan of minerals. I was actually, let me tell you where the inspiration came from. This amethyst crystal inspired these colours. It's got a beautiful, oh goodness me, I can't remember what he told me it was. Nick told me yesterday what this likely is at the base, but it's some kind of marble in the middle of it as well. And it's not granite, it's something else that's very similar. But the warmth in those colours, you can see the rustiness from the iron, and that's coming out in these greys here. These are very warm greys, so they feel like they've got the iron and the orange in them too. So they really match well with the iolite, which is kind of a reminiscent of the amethyst. There is an amethyst colour, I think, in Felted Tweed, but it's much darker, and I wanted it to just have that little bit of brightness to it. So you wouldn't think that these greys actually work well together, but they do. You can definitely see the contrast in the different greys. There's the dark grey there with the light grey crosses in it. So I will tell you also about where the pattern came from in a second, but let me just show you the sample that introduced me to the blues. There are so many different blues in this. This is lapis lazuli with pyrite, fool's gold in it. So this is a beautiful dark blue, mostly. So I found this maritime colour. This is what this colour is called, maritime. It's not the darkest blue, but it's one of the lighter blues in there. It's a mid blue. I then found this, which is called winter blue. That's a lovely turquoisey tint in there too. And then the white in there is called alabaster in here. So there's some marble quartzy colours in there. So this was what very much inspired these blues. You might want to do something similar if you want to pick some different colours out. It's an option. Now, where did this come from? Have you ever heard the term sashiko before? because that's what this is called, the sashiko cowl. Now, sashiko is a form of stitching. It's a Japanese technique of embroidery. It's certainly had more prominence in recent years for visible mending, but it's been used to thicken fabrics and to mend fabrics and to give individuality to fabrics in Japan for many, many years, for decades, probably actually for centuries. I don't know the complete history of it, but now I wasn't very well last year, you know that. I won't go into the depths of it, but last Christmas, when I couldn't do much knitting, and all the way through December really as well, I started finding other things to watch on YouTube. So I was sat there watching people binding books, because that's one of my favourite hobbies. I've always loved sewing, so I started watching people sewing as well, and I came across this Japanese form of stitching, and sashiko is basically what the whole industry, the whole methodology is called. One of the most common stitches you'll find within sashiko is the crosses. So this is why I brought this into here. We have crosses all the way across this, and I just wanted to name it after that because that's where the inspiration came from. Obviously the colours came from the different mineral specimens I have here, but the pattern comes from the Japanese sashiko stitching. So yeah, I thought you might like to hear the background of that. That's where it came from, and that's the inspiration for it. And yeah, I really love for you to start knitting some sashiko cowls as well. And bringing another technique into your knitting can really inspire where you move next. Not only will you have colour knitting giving you double thickness fabric, because you'll have more than one line of yarn going across each row, but it means that so much more is open to you when you want to continue knitting in different ways as well. And the possibilities, actually the confidence in your knitting will grow too. You won't realise exactly how much you can do until you just start and try. I wish when I started colour knitting that I'd started many, many years before, because I was so inspired by it. I absolutely loved it, and I didn't realise that it was easier than I thought it might be. Now, like I said, you basically need to knit and purl. So a beginner, someone who has beginner's experience, so you've been knitting for a while and you understand the knit and purl stitch, you don't make too many mistakes with having suddenly too many stitches or too few stitches. You don't suddenly have a tight row and you're not sure why. The tension's pretty good. When it comes to keeping this cowl on tension, it won't matter that much. If you say, oh no, my knitting's always too light, I can never knit something so it matches the exact size and shape it's supposed to be. I don't think anybody knits so that the finished item is exactly the size and shape it's supposed to be. I think that's a complete impossibility, to be perfectly honest. We are not machines. So if you think, I'm going to knit this and it'll be too big, it'll be too small, it's never going to fit, it's going to be all right. This is a cowl. It doesn't have to be an absolutely perfect size and shape. When you finish knitting it, it will be finished knitting. And that's enough. That's enough for you and me to know that you finished knitting it. And if you can stick it over your head, then it's a cowl and it can keep you warm. That's pretty much all you need. But yeah, you need to be not too tight a knitter and not too loose a knitter, but have some confidence in the fact that your tension is generally average and generally similar throughout the whole of your knitted item. So yeah, not an absolute beginner, but someone who's knitted for a bit of time. You don't need to have done colour knitting before, you don't need to have done a great deal of complex knitting either. We're not doing lots of shaping or anything like that. It is straight up, down, cast on, knit and cast off. So I've already said the materials you're going to need will be 3 balls of yarn, and they're going to be colours that you can choose for yourself or from the kit. The samples I have here, you can see, are in the blue and in the purple colourways. So we have Maritime, Winter Blue and Alabaster here. And that's Aluminium, Boulder and Iolite here. They are available in the kit if you want that. If you're in the UK, that's available. Otherwise, you can join the knit along with a digital pass. And the digital access gives you every single tutorial, all of the pattern downloads, including a special bonus. I always create leftover patterns for knit alongs, because we don't just want this sat around doing nothing. And I love having leftover patterns for small amounts of yarn, and indeed for multiple colours of yarn. So this is going to be ideal for you if you would like to use this yarn for a new pattern that I will drop in the knit along near the end. Now, the other thing we have in the knit along, I will just show you the materials that we need. We need stitch markers. Stitch markers are really helpful, especially for a large item cowl like this, but also for something which keeps you on stitch count. You're going to be doing pattern within the rows with multiple colours. So this helps you keep on track. It says, am I on the right place? Am I in the right place in the row to be doing this particular thing? So stitch markers can be really helpful. Definitely get hold of them if you don't have them already, and it's an option to add them to the kit if you want to. Add-ons are not available if you're outside of the UK, because at the moment I don't ship outside the UK. We're also going to use a circular knitting needle. Now this is a fixed one. I have come to the conclusion over the last few years that fixed knitting needles, especially for a longer, slightly heavier item like this, fixed needles are much more preferential. I really do prefer using these. And over the years, I haven't had to buy lots of them. I think I have maybe 3 or 4 of these, and I've reused them. They're not going to waste. And this is Basics Birch Knit Pro. It is 80 centimetres long, and it is 3.25mm needles. So we have tips of 3.25mm, which is the size you need for this yarn. So it's not very, very thin yarn. We're not using We're not using sock yarn or anything like that. It's a medium-ish yarn, and it's a 3.25mm needle. You'll be surprised at how well this cowl grows, because it's one of those patterns where, oh, I'll just do another 2 rounds. I'll just do another 4 rounds. Oh, I'll just do another 10 minutes. Because I build patterns like this on purpose. I think I must be mad, because I just don't stop knitting then. But if you have a pattern where it's, oh, I've done another step, I've reached another point, that means I could just do the same amount of knitting and I'll reach the next point as well. So I have patterns like that throughout my pattern library, and this is another one. You're going to love this. Yes, it's another one. The pattern works in a series of stripes. So you're going to knit a stripe and go, oh, I could just knit the next stripe, couldn't I? I could just knit the next stripe, couldn't I? Yeah, actually, I'll just do the next bit of colour work. And you'll be surprised. It does keep growing. It's very pick-upable. It's one of those knits. So definitely. And actually, this is the kind of knit, I've taken it out of the house. It's transportable. So if you're commuting, if you're taking it to work and knitting at lunchtime, or even taking it to a friend's house if you're doing a knitting group or something, then it's certainly something that you could just take with the balls of yarn in a small bag, and it's very transportable. So that's something to as a benefit as well. let me just tell you what you actually get inside the knit along. We're going to be together for 3 weeks over 4 weekends. So we start on the Saturday and we'll finish 3 weeks later on the Sunday. And to begin with, you'll have the welcome video, you'll have just a couple of bonus videos, and also you'll have the pattern to download, and you'll be able to introduce yourself. And then we get started on the Monday with all our tutorials dropped. Every Monday as well, I will send you an audio, like a little podcast, so that you can listen to it on a Monday morning, feel inspired to knit for the week, and all the way through those 3 weeks, we will be sharing photographs. You can be asking questions, you can let us know what you think of the podcast and what it's inspired you to do. There will be extra bonus downloads as well, just to keep you on schedule, to keep you on track, and to keep you inspired to keep knitting, and to keep us together as a community. And knitting as a community has such great bonuses. I'm sure you know that. Doing anything as a group can be really supportive and helpful, just to keep the fire going, to keep your enthusiasm up, and to, like this, actually help you finish projects. I've had people tell me in knit-alongs before, while we were in the knit-along, I finished it. I tried to knit another one and I got stuck. So definitely come into the knit-along to finish your this cowl, to knit it. And actually, in the YouTube membership as well, I've been supporting people to keep knitting and to knit the next thing and to knit the next thing. So it feels a bit like that. If you're in the YouTube membership, you will understand that. But in the knit-along, it's a much closer community. We have the ability to share photographs, ask questions, and like I say, I can share audios, not just videos. And there's all the PDFs to download as well, which obviously we can't do in the YouTube membership. But this knit-along is open for 3 weeks, and we can do that all together. We can knit the cowl together. Whether you choose the kit or the digital access, and you want to choose your own yarn, then you'll be invited into the knit-along at the same time on Saturday, the 7th of September, and we'll be knitting together for 3 weeks. Absolutely do hope you'll be able to join us. I've had such fun creating this pattern and recording all of the videos, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you in there. All of the links for joining the knit-along are below. If you're watching this after the knit-along has begun, do double check the links below, because the pattern could be available, and the likelihood is that the recordings from the knit-along will be available as well, but only self-guided without the community access. Do go and have a look at that and see in the description too. Okay, I do hope you'll be able to join me and the rest of the knitters inside the knit-along. So looking forward to this. We've had great fun, and I mean, the rainbow cowl was absolutely brilliant 2 years ago, because knitting 3 colours, a cowl, and so many people then ended up knitting them for multiple members of their families and friends. It's less than 3 balls of yarn. I actually have measured this, and there is, let me add it up, about 40 grams of yarn, 45 grams of yarn left. It is so well worth knitting and learning these new skills as well. Okay, I do hope I'll see you inside. Thanks so much for watching today. I will see you inside the knit-along and again here soon on YouTube. Bye for now. Happy knitting.